June 6, 1944, 5:50 hours, 5 miles off the Normandy coast. The North Atlantic wind slashes across the gray steel deck of USS Texas like a bayonet. Salt spray explodes against her towering superstructure, drenching the sailors in ice-cold needles. Below, in the bowels of this 32-year-old dreadnought, 1-800 men brace themselves against the violent roll of a ship that has no business being here. A relic from the Kaiser's War, now staring down Hitler's Atlantic Wall. On the bridge, Captain Charles A. Baker grips the voice tube so hard his knuckles go white. Through the slit window, he watches the first pale streaks of light reveal hell on the beaches. Landing craft broaching in the surf, tracers arcing like fiery hornets. Young men stumbling into water turned red. Baker's voice is calm steel. Commence fire! 14-inch guns that first roared at Veracruz in 1914 thunder awake. The entire ship physically recoils, a 27,000-ton beast kicking like a mule. Muzzle flashes turn the dawn orange. But the shells arc high, then begin to drop short, 2 miles short. German 150mm batteries at Pointe and beyond remain untouched, still vomiting death onto Omaha Beach. Baker's jaw tightens. Thousands of boys are dying right now because his beautiful old ship can't reach far enough. He turns to his executive officer. "We're going to list her." A pause. The words hang heavier than cordite smoke. Deliberately flood a battleship in combat? The idea is insane. One wrong valve in Texas could capsize, taking every soul aboard to the bottom. But Baker has already made the decision. Flood starboard compartments, 10 degrees list, now. Down in Damage Control Central, Chief Water Tender William Pettit stares at the repeating order like it's written in blood. He has spent 23 years keeping water out of this ship. Now the captain wants him to let the ocean in. On purpose. Pettit grabs the ship's phone. "All stations, this is Damage Control. Open valves S14 through S22. Repeat, open the seacocks. We are flooding ourselves." Valves the size of manhole covers screech open. The Atlantic Ocean roars into the starboard blister tanks, into void spaces, into compartments never meant to see seawater in battle. You can feel the ship groan, an old warrior accepting a mortal wound to deliver one final blow. On the main deck, sailors stagger as Texas begins to heal. Coffee cups slide off tables. Turrets that once trained smoothly now fight gravity itself. Men grab stanchions, eyes wide, whispering the same question. Is the old girl sinking? Up on the bridge, the inclinometer needle creeps past 5 degrees, 7, 8. The horizon tilts crazily. The sea climbs the starboard rail until green water licks the edge of the main deck. Somewhere aft, a 20mm gun tub dips beneath the waves. 9 degrees. Baker watches the pointer like a hawk. Hold. 10 degrees. The ship hangs there, unnaturally canted, a 573-foot steel cliff leaning toward the Normandy coast. To any watching German sailor on the shore, she looks mortally wounded. Listing, helpless, finished. But inside her armored citadel, gunners are grinning like madmen, because every degree of list has just elevated those 14-inch rifles another fraction higher. The impossible has become physics. The range tables are rewritten in seawater. Turret 2, Captain John Orem, Jr., stares down the barrel of his center 14-inch gun like it's a living thing. The deck beneath his feet tilts at an angle no battleship turret was ever designed to handle. Hydraulic pumps whine in protest. The massive breech feels like it's trying to slide downhill. But the pointer needles kiss green. Range to target to 28,000 yards. Solution, good. That's 2 miles farther than Texas has ever fired in anger. Farther than her original 1914 design ever dreamed. Orem doesn't hesitate. Match pointers. Shoot. The ship that was born before the tank, before the airplane had machine guns, before most of her crew's fathers had even met their mothers, roars. Boom! Three guns and turret 2 spit 1,500-pound armor-piercing shells into the dawn at a 30-degree elevation no naval architect ever calculated. The recoil shoves the entire 27,000-ton hull sideways through the water. Empty brass powder cases the size of trash cans crash across the tilting deck plates like church bells from hell. On the German shore, Lieutenant zur See Heinrich Müller stands in a concrete casemate at Longues-sur-Mer, binoculars pressed to his eyes. He has spent the night watching American battleships fire and fall short, safe, mocking these antiques across the water. Now something changes. The American battleship with the Lone Star on her stack is leaning, listing hard to starboard like she's already dying. Miller almost feels pity. Then the sky screams. A shell, the weight of a Volkswagen Beetle, drops out of nowhere, punches through 6 feet of reinforced concrete above his head, and detonates inside the battery command post. The explosion is so sudden, half the crew doesn't even have time to scream. Another shell. Another. The entire position disappears in orange fireballs and black smoke. Muller staggers out of the wreckage, ears bleeding, staring across the water at the impossible. That wounded American dinosaur is reaching out and biting with a vengeance no one thought she still had. Back aboard Texas, the gunners work in controlled chaos. Sweat pours down their faces despite the cold. Every time the big rifles fire, the ship lurches harder against her self-inflicted wound. Water sloshes in the starboard motor whale boat, davits. Men brace barehanded against bulkheads to stay upright. But the spotting planes overhead radio the same magic words again and again. On target, battery silenced, shift to the next. In 20 minutes, Texas throws more steel than some cruisers manage in an hour, and every shell lands exactly where the boys on Omaha Beach need it too. But the list is getting worse. Water meant for ballast is finding places it was never supposed to go. Somewhere deep in the ship, a bulkhead groans like it's about to give up the fight. Captain Baker knows the clock is ticking. How long can they keep a battleship deliberately half-sunk before she decides to finish the job? Deep in the engineering spaces, red lights flash across damaged control boards like arterial blood. Seawater surges through pipes never designed to carry it in this direction. Men in sweat-soaked dungarees wrestle with counter-flooding valves on the port side, trying to keep the old girl from rolling any farther. Chief Pettit's voice cracks over the sound-powered phones. We've got progressive flooding in the starboard clipping room, bulkheads bowing. One more broadside from those 14-inch guns, and the pressure could rip the ship open like a tin can. On the bridge, Captain Baker hears every report. His ship is bleeding, but the radio from Omaha Beach crackles with something new. Desperation turning to disbelief. Texas, this is Dog Green Sector. German guns have gone quiet. Repeat, the batteries are knocked out. You saved us. Rangers at Pointe du Hoc radio the same. The shells that had no right to reach are now burying entire casemates under hundreds of tons of steel and concrete. Baker allows himself one tight nod. Seize fire main battery, secure the list, pump her dry. Now comes the most dangerous moment of all. Pettit and his damage control parties race against gravity itself. Massive pumps roar to life, shoving thousands of tons of seawater back over the side. The ship shudders, fighting to right herself. Men hold their breath as the inclinometer needle creeps backward. 9 degrees, 7, 5. For 90 agonizing minutes, Texas hangs in the balance, a battleship that deliberately tried to sink herself and now refuses to die. Slowly, almost reluctantly, the deck levels. The ocean retreats from the starboard scuppers. The old dreadnought straightens her back and steams on as if nothing happened. Across the water, in the smoking ruins of Battery Hamburg, a shaken German naval observer scribbles in his logbook with trembling hands. The American battleship Texas listed herself 10 degrees, and fired beyond maximum range. We thought she was finished. Instead, she destroyed us. These people are madmen, or geniuses. By noon, Texas has taken position again, her secondary 5-inch batteries now hammering German troop concentrations inland. Her crew, black with powder stains and exhaustion, pass around coffee and cigarettes, laughing in that quiet way men do when they realize they just pulled off the impossible. They have turned a ship built for Teddy Roosevelt's Great White Fleet into a 27,000-ton artillery piece that rewrote the first day of the Normandy invasion. And somewhere on the bridge, Captain Baker finally lights a cigarette of his own, watching the beaches where thousands of boys now move forward because an ancient battleship was willing to wound herself to keep them alive. But the day is far from over, because now the Luftwaffe has finally found the fleet, and Texas, still licking her self-inflicted wounds, is about to face an enemy that doesn't care how clever she is. June 6, 1944, 1942 hours, the sun bleeds red into the English Channel. Texas steams in slow circles off Omaha Beach. Her decks finally level again, her crew bone-tired but alive. The big guns are cold for the first time all day. Ammunition hoists silent. Men line the rails, watching the beach where Higgins' boats still crawl like beetles, unloading the next wave of an invasion that almost broke. Then the air raid sirens howl. Lookouts scream from the crow's nest. Aircraft bearing 270, low and fast, junkers! The Luftwaffe has been a ghost all day, grounded by Allied jabs and bad weather. Now, as if summoned by the devil himself, 30 Ju-88 bombers scream in at wave-top height, skimming the water to stay under radar. Torpedoes drop from their bellies like silver fish. Texas is a floating city with no place to hide. Captain Baker's voice cracks across the 1MC. General quarters, air attack starboard quarter. Klaxons wail. Men sprint half-dressed from mess decks, still chewing supper. Powder-stained gunners who spent the day killing concrete now swing their turrets skyward, trying to depress 14-inch rifles that can't fire lower than 10 degrees elevation. Useless. The 5-inch batteries open up first, orange muzzle flashes lighting the dusk. Then, every 40mm and 20mm on the ship erupts in a storm of tracers. The air becomes a solid wall of steel. A Ju-88 roars straight down Texas's port side, close enough for gunners to see the pilot's face. He releases his torpedo late. It porpoises, misses, explodes harmlessly astern. Another bomber isn't so lucky. A 40mm quad mount under Ensign Frank A. Riley finds the range. Shells stitch across the Junker's fuselage. It bursts into flame, cartwheels into the sea 50 yards off the battleship's beam, sending a geyser of water over the forecastle that drenches cheering sailors. But there are too many. One torpedo runs hot, straight, and true. It slams into the sea just off the port bow and detonates early, the shock wave lifting Texas's 27,000 tons clear of the water. Rivets pop like gunshots. Men are thrown to the deck. Somewhere below, a steam line ruptures in a scalding scream. Then another torpedo. This one finds its mark. The explosion is underwater thunder. The entire ship shudders as if punched by a giant fist. Alarms shriek. Damage reports flood the bridge. Torpedo hit port side. Frame 38. Blister compartment flooded. We're taking water fast. The same blister they flooded themselves this morning to save the invasion, now torn open by the enemy. Texas begins listing again, this time not by choice. And in the darkening sky, more Black Crosses are already turning for a second run. The old girl who refused to die at dawn might finally meet her match at dusk. The torpedo wound gapes below the waterline like a mortal slash. Texas lists 5 degrees to port now, uncommanded and angry. Steam screams from ruptured lines. The smell of fuel oil mixes with cordite and fear. But this ship has survived Veracruz, the North Sea in 1918, and her own captain's madness this morning. She is not done yet. Captain Baker's voice is ice over the 1MC. Damage control parties to frame 38. All anti-aircraft batteries. Give them hell. The 40mm Bofors and 20mm Oerlikons roar back to life with a vengeance. Tracers arc into the twilight like fiery horns. The sea around Texas boils with splashes as bombers press their attack. One Ju-88 comes in low, wings tipped with swastikas, pilot desperate for a killing blow. He never makes it. A dozen 20mm guns converge. The bomber disintegrates midair, a fireball tumbling into the channel, lighting the waves blood orange. Another torpedo plane clips a wave, cartwheels, explodes. The sky is full of burning crosses now. Aboard Texas, machinist's mate, second-class Anthony Smallwood, barely 19, mans a 20mm gun with frozen hands. Salt water from the torpedo hit soaks his shoes. He keeps firing until the barrel glows red, screaming at the top of his lungs, not in fear, in pure defiance. The last Ju-88 breaks off, trailing smoke, disappearing into the night. Silence falls, broken only by the hiss of steam and the cries of the wounded. Texas is hurt. Badly. The blister is crushed, compartments flooded to the second deck. But her engines still turn, her guns still bear, and most importantly, she is still afloat. Down in the steaming, knee-deep hell of the torpedo damage, Chief Pettit and his men work miracles with collision mats and shoring timbers. Pumps thunder like the heart of the ship itself, refusing to quit. By 22 hours, the list is under control. Progressive flooding stopped. Texas steams eastward under her own power, limping but alive, toward Portland Harbor in England for emergency repairs. The crew gathers on deck under the stars. Someone starts singing, "Remember the Alamo." Others join in, voices hoarse, until the entire battleship echoes with it. They know what they did today. They took a ship older than their fathers, deliberately half-sank her to save an army, then fought off the Luftwaffe with a hole in her side. And somewhere along the French coast, in shattered bunkers and waterlogged U-boat pens, surviving German sailors will tell the story for the rest of their lives. The American battleship that flooded herself on purpose and still refused to die. She fired beyond God's own range. She took a torpedo like a punch from the devil, and she sailed away laughing. This was only day one. Texas would return to Normandy again and again, Cherbourg, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, each time writing new legends in fire and steel. But on June 6, 1944, an ancient dreadnought with a lone star on her stack proved that some warriors only get stronger when you wound them. Because some ships don't just fight battles, they become them.